As the leaders of the House Problem Solvers Caucus, which consists of 24 Democrats and 24 Republicans who work on issues like lowering taxes and improving infrastructure, Representative Gottheimer and Reid have shown their dedication to working across the aisle for the good of our country. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Representatives Josh Gottheimer and Tom Reid. Okay.
Hey, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning. Afternoon.
Oh, thank you.
That was good. Someone applauded you.
That was for you,
Tom.
Josh. That was for you.
Not for me.
So Representative Reid probably looks very familiar to you all, because if you remember, when we talked to the president, when candidate Trump visited us, Tom was the one that gave the introductory remarks, right?
I did.
And was a good friend to us, met with us and talked over the issues. That we very much appreciated that. We have you here today. Everybody is extremely excited whenever we have a chance to talk about breaking the gridlock on Capitol Hill, right? And we're interested in hearing, first of all, how did you come up with the idea?
Well, thank you for having us. I'm glad you plugged Tom on how great he is. He's a very, very good guy and a very good friend. And first of all, thank you very much for having us. And thank you all for being here. What Tom and I have been working on, just for those of you who haven't seen it, we co-chair a group called the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's half Democrats, half Republicans, over 40 of us. And we get together every week. We're in Washington. And I know this sounds crazy. We actually talk to each other about what we can get done versus what we disagree on. Because as you know, it's easy to say no to things, but much harder to actually find agreement. And especially in this day and age where with social media and cable news, people tend to, it's better television to be screaming. Right. What we work on is whether it's infrastructure issues or trying to take on get less regulation, clear out things and less red tape, or trying to deal with healthcare issues, we get together and try to figure out where we can agree. And we've been able to do it the last couple of years on a bunch of issues, and Tom and I are partners. We both co-chair this group.
And so again, I echo welcome and thank you for giving us an opportunity to have a conversation with you again. It's always great to be with the home builders. And you know what Josh is talking about is really the only bipartisan group in Washington, D.C. And we are a bipartisan group that is organized. That is an official set of bylaws. It's a formal caucus. It's by invite only. This is a group of members that are taking a pledge to each other, eyeball to eyeball, where we will vote as a block when we get to a consensus position. So if we get to a 75% consensus position, 51% Democratic support, 51% Republican, we will bring all 48 of us, or 40 of us, to the floor as a block of votes. That is critical in Washington, D.C., and as many of you know, the two numbers we live by is 218 and 60. And so when those are the necessary votes to pass a bill in the House, 60 votes in the Senate. So when you can bring a block of votes like that together to the floor, it influences the agenda. The other thing that we've done is we won't campaign against each other. So members of the Problem Solvers Caucus take a promise to each other saying, we're not going to support your opponent, we're not going to campaign against you. We are committed to a culture of trust and conversations to try to find that common ground, and we're making a difference. Greg, 2 years ago, we formalized this group. Josh came in, I came in 2010, and I'll just tell you, I think we're joining with the silent majority of Americans that are saying enough is enough. Yes. It is time. We are proud Republicans, we are proud Democrats, but it's time to get something done for America.
And as you know, as a group, we're not so silent, but we feel the same way, absolutely. And we're curious as to what issues do you see coming down, and what are you trying to tee up to get the trust? I think it's outstanding about the not campaigning against each other so that you could talk openly and not worry about that coming back to haunt you. But also, so what issues do you see that you're going to focus on, and what others are you going to consider as they come up?
Well, historically, like the last session, we were able to find consensus on an infrastructure package. We were able to find consensus on a piece of healthcare that dealt with the individual healthcare marketplace and things we could do to stabilize those marketplaces under the Affordable Care Act. Going forward, we are a member-driven organization. So we've surveyed the members, we've talked to the members, and we're really trying to be responsive to them. And some areas that I see, infrastructure again. Was that my face? Oh, look at you're like a little elf.
Is that necessary?
He looks as tall as you.
We do like each other very much.
Jesus.
We do have a great friendship. But we have some areas, I think, in infrastructure again, drug pricing, and you know, we were talking to some other folks in regards to recent meetings we had here about maybe some housing financial reforms and things like that. So
Housing affordability.
Housing
Yes,
affordability.
Housing affordability, a very important issue. And I'm on the Financial Services Committee where housing is a very important issue, and Tom's on Ways and Means on tax policy. So part of what we're very interested in is certainly on housing affordability, also figuring out ways we can get out some of the bureaucracy and red tape that really plagues the system and holds back the economy. You know, and it's a big issue that affects, as you all know well, on zoning and a lot of on-the-ground issues from preventing things from getting started. So we both hold similar views on that we've got to actually make sure we can get things moving, keep the economy growing. We all know that you're the ones who actually help create the economic opportunity and the jobs on the ground, and it's a very important thing for both of us.
Very good. And, you know, as you do this, as you start pulling the members together, it's not something you can really grow unlimited, right? So you have to kind of control, because the closer the group, the better off you are. Where do you think you're headed as far as numbers?
You know, it's a really good question. You know, everyone always comes up and says, well, why doesn't everybody just join this
Right.
thing? Not everybody is willing to make the commitment that, as Tom said, when we get to 75% of us agreeing, as we did on all those issues, that we vote as a block together, we stand together. And not everyone's willing to say, hey, I'm not going to campaign against that person. What we're doing is putting, as Tom said, we put country first. And versus, you know, and some of our colleagues, right, you know, the climbing up the party is, you know, more what drives them. And we're both, you know, Tom's a great Republican, I'm a good Democrat. You know, we care about our views, but we're willing to actually not get everything we want, just like everyone here in their lives. When I was in business most of my career, you don't get everything you want, but if you get 80%, that's pretty good, and you move the country forward. And, but we're living in a time now, thanks. Are we paying those people in the front? We're living in a time, as you all know, where obstructionism is motivating things, right? The extremes are the loudest. And we've got them on our side, and Tom's got them on his side, and it's a big problem because they just want to take things out. They want to prevent, some folks just want to prevent progress, whether that's because they want to raise money off of it or it's like makes for good television, versus focusing on what we have to do to keep moving things forward and to fix some of these issues.
Good.
And I would add, what we're really focused on is the numbers important, but the commitment, being a mile deep. Because what we're doing is, to some people, treasonous. To some people, is not how DC operates. And so we need members that are willing to withstand the pressure that's come from it. And we're not just talking the talk. We're walking the walk. And what we recently did, the Problem Solvers Caucus, one of the major wins we had this last cycle, is we changed the rules of the House of Representatives. And a lot of people don't know what that is. It's inside DC, but it's the rules of how legislation comes to the floor. And what essentially it has become over the last few decades is it's all driven by one or two people, the Speaker's office, leadership office, where you have to get their blessing before a bill will get debated. We reformed the rules and we held together as members to say we will not support a Speaker candidate who didn't embrace these rule reforms that allowed members to be members, to allow legislation to come to the floor. If you get a certain co-sponsorship of 290 members on both sides, you would think a bipartisan idea like that should automatically have its say on the floor. That doesn't happen, or didn't happen under the old rules. We changed those rules, and when we went through it, kudos to Josh and the Democratic members. We were ready to do it on the Republican side, but they stood firm. We had their back, and we changed the rules, and we withheld their Speaker support till those rule reforms were done. And then in good faith, what I did on the Republican side is I went over and I supported and voted for the rules package coming from the Democratic Party. That has not been done in 20 years. Yeah. And I will tell you, many people on our side still use that against me today.
And it's, by the way, it's unpopular, right? I mean, this picture here, this is actually in Tom's district. So I went to Tom's district a couple months before the election. But great, we're in Corning here. Beautiful place. And going, just to put this in context, going to someone else's district, on the other side of the aisle, where it should be just what you should do. We work together. We don't agree on lots of things, but there's plenty of things we can find common ground on, and that's what you should do. But it's heresy. Right. It really, it's our leadership says to us, what are you doing? Yeah. Why would you do that? Right? And you say, but because we're trying to get something done. We're actually we got issues to deal with here.
That's right.
I'll give you another example, Greg.
Sorry, Greg.
So when Josh came in as a freshman member, I'd been around since 2010. I took a liking to him. He co-chaired on the Democratic side. We started this friendship, and we started doing legislation together. And one of the things inside DC baseball is, he's a top target. He comes from a Republican district in northern New Jersey, and our guys are looking at him. A beautiful community, great diners, as we've been there too. And what we did is we started doing legislation with him, and they're like, "Why are you giving him, one of our top targets, these wins? Showing that he's an effective legislator?" And I said, "Because he's a good member, and I know him, and he's a friend, and we have a good debate, and we can work together to find that common ground." And I'm just sick and tired of getting members there that just want to blow the place up. And I'll take a member on the other side of the aisle any day that will work with me in good faith.
Good. Good.
That was good.
Just to follow up on that a little bit. Oh, first, just to be clear, that was a bar you were walking into, right? Yeah, I
No,
thought so.
no.
That was, so, but can you recall, because this is fascinating, when you as members get your whip call and you get your marching orders and things, and so what has been the toughest confrontation or discussion that you've had working together, or something that you know of that some of your members have had?
Well, I think the rules package was probably one of the most high pressure, getting those rules, because you're reforming the institution of the House. That doesn't happen on a regular basis. That is something that is highly unusual. And so that pressure, was immense. And then supporting that rules package, that was immense. But then
remember the Affordable, even on the Affordable Care Act, we had been, if you remember the first year of this last session of Congress, there was a lot of debate about what to do around the Affordable Care Act and health care in general. And Tom and I, with a small group as part of the caucus, had been working on an alternate package as things were going back and forth. If you remember, the late, great John McCain voted no on that package, early in the morning. We'd been working for months on a different package to help stabilize, as Tom said, stabilize healthcare costs. Now, and it had things in it that both sides liked and didn't like, right? That's how you do a compromise, right? Right? You don't get everything you want. And so when it failed, we put out we all got together as a caucus. We voted, that next morning. We got together, 40 of us in a room, right overnight. The next morning, got together, put out this package, which, by the way, major papers around the country praised ultimately. The phone call that I got from my leadership was, and I won't mention names, but said, "What are you doing? Why would you? Over there, they're drowning. They just failed. Why would you throw a lifeline?" I said, because it's not about them, it's about the country. Right. What do you mean? You've got people who's out there right? But
and millions of Americans.
Right, remember that? Yeah. And that's by the way, that's the problem. Right? If we think about everything in that frame versus what's right about partisanship versus what's good for country, as Tom said, right? How are we ever going to get anything done? And that's why what we're trying to do, I think, is really different, but it's, as Tom said, I believe where the majority of the country is.
Good. So how are you going to identify issues as you move forward? Do they get presented to you? Do you go out and find them? Or how's that going to work?
So we are a member-driven organization, so we're very sensitive to what the members want to take on. Sometimes the agenda is driven by the circumstances of the day, and that's, when Parkland happened. I mean, this is an issue. I mean, Second Amendment, fundamental right, very divisive issue from Democrat-Republican point of view. But, the phone went off. Members on both sides called both Josh and I, and we're like, you know what, maybe there's something we can do on school safety, maybe on mental health. And so it started the conversation, and so a lot of the agenda is driven there. Now what we've also done is we have really tried to develop some muscle memory using our new rules authority and also a member initiative type of program where the members bring the issue forward. And these are kind of maybe some bills that aren't, things that you're going to read about on the front page of the New York Times or Wall Street Journal, but they are issues that need to be addressed, and that's kind of one of the things we're developing as we speak.
And constantly building the trust, right? Because that's the key to making this work.
And why we are, why everyone just doesn't come in is because we want people who are serious, who are there, right? You have to be willing, right? We meet every week. We often meet, to get things done, you need 4 or 5 hour blocks of time. We'll meet up again at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night to work on a package of an agreement. We put up whiteboards in the office. It's what you think you should be doing. If you all saw this, you would feel much better about things.
Right.
Because I stayed around, you got 5, 7, 10 members of Congress in a room, whiteboards up. We're literally on the boards negotiating, could you live with this? Could I live with this? Listening to one another, not just talking to them, but listening about what will make a difference. And it takes 4 or 5 hours, real commitment to governing. Right. And we want people who are serious about it, and who are willing, when leadership picks up the phone and says, okay, that's nice now, get in line, people say, I'm sorry, this is how we got to do things, and we want the right people.
Good, excellent. I think we have a few in, go ahead.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think we have a few minutes, if maybe we could take a couple questions. Does anybody want to ask these two gentlemen, two representatives, a question? Raise your hand if you're at a mic.
Oh, there's a couple over there.
Okay. Mic 5.
Like Secretary Carson mentioned, I'm not asking about any structures specifically, but what are you working on as a group with immigration reform?
I get that.
So, great question, and to show you the strength of where this caucus has come from, where it was and where it is today. We were the only bipartisan group that went down during the shutdown. The sides weren't even talking to each other. Our leadership wasn't even talking and exchanging, where the compromise position was. And so, working with the White House, we were the only bipartisan group that went to the White House, Democrats, Republicans, 17 of us, was in the Situation Room in the White House with the President and Vice President for an hour and a half. And I will tell you, that was some of the most productive conversations, and we got feedback from everybody who was in that room and from folks that participated in that, is that is the most substantive conversation that has been held on this issue since they experienced it. And so we came together in a bipartisan way. We came up with some immigration proposals that last year we worked on that essentially would have taken care of the dreamers, would have taken care of those with temporary protective status. We're talking about 1.5 million people, and
right.
given them permanency, given them stability in their future in exchange for border security. And we were offering much more than where we ultimately ended up in regards to it. But it was border security beyond the concept of the political wall. I mean, that word wall became such a childish debate, in my opinion, that we got focused on the politics as opposed to when you actually pulled it aside and said, you know what? Border security means the border, means people, it means judges, it means ports of entry, it means technology. And ultimately, we put a package together that, to a degree, I think, influenced the final position that ultimately we came to in Congress.
Right, and I think what we were so frustrated about was we had worked on this. We really had a bipartisan agreement. If we had gotten a vote on the floor, I think it would have passed. We were really pushing for one. And you saw how many months of politics this has just become over an issue that we clearly could find a way forward on, which is, as you all know, incredibly frustrating because if it's there and you see it, and we worked on it for months, and we just couldn't get it,
Don't give up on that.
No, we're not.
Don't give up on that.
Because of the way the House is structured, it's become such a top-down organized institution that you have broad bipartisan support. You have broad bipartisan numbers that would clearly pass these legislations, but because of whatever politics of the extremes, they don't want to address it and have a debate on it. And it was denied the opportunity to be heard.
Let's go to microphone 8.
First of all, kudos to you guys. You're like a bright light in a dark room. Do you see expanding this number from 40 to some other, whether it be a slow move? It seems to me like it would be very worthwhile. How would you do that?
Well, so we're working on we meet with a lot of people who are interested, and frankly, it's the members of Congress interview who's interested. What's what?
Sorry,
Oh,
guys.
look at that.
These are just
Oh,
great.
how did you get in that picture?
Yeah, thank you.
Right, that's really good. I like that.
Josh, you're in the wagon, I think.
Well done, Greg. Well done.
I thought you were going to mess with my socks, but you're going to
He's
go
on my
after my
side.
height on that?
Yeah.
Because you're a giant. Wait, how tall are you? Come on. Dude, get up.
That's why I could.
Up,
That's
up.
why I could.
Up.
See,
Look, I'm like Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, look at
here.
that.
no, you sit down. You
Look
sit
at this.
down.
Look at this.
The big guys are up now.
First of all, also, while we're here, has anyone seen this coordination? This is amazing coordination. Show them the cufflinks. All matching. All three matching. I'm very
Thanks.
impressed.
Yeah, he took a picture of it. I can't wait to see where that's going to show up.
So we're working on. We talked to a lot of folks about joining, but we're very serious about making sure that we have people there who are willing to walk the walk and not just put it on their resume. And it's tough. But interestingly, when the House, that right now the way the House is structured, you've got about 20 more Democrats and Republicans. We have more members in our caucus than that. So on any given issue, when we get together around an issue, we can sway a vote, right, if we get people together. So think of, you don't need hundreds, you just need enough to have enough influence to be able to move a vote. And that's really what matters and why we're at the table. And frankly now, we get phone calls from all over the place, whether it's from the White House or from people in the Senate or from over, when they say we need Democrats and Republicans to talk to each other about something, because the House is controlled by the Democrats and the Senate and the White House are Republicans. It's divided government. If you're going to do anything, you're going to have to actually figure out things that both sides could agree to. That's how a bill becomes a law, which really people come to us and say, hey, is there some bipartisanship to be done here? And on housing is a great issue that I think we're certainly going to look at now as, well, what else can we do there? And we could be a great testing ground for these issues.
Excellent.
And so, I mean, and again, growing the caucus in numbers is important, and silent majority of members are very interested, and we get people coming up. And it's not just middle centrist type of districts. We don't publicize the list of the members because we let each member publicize their own name and whether they participate with it, because we have some very hard left, hard right represented areas in the caucus, and the politics of it is a little bit different than maybe for other folks. So, it's to make sure that the members are committed, and the number, and with a 17-seat majority in the House, having a group of at least 20 on each side really sways things. And as the extremes take over, we saw it, we were joking about it earlier.
Yes.
We went through our Tea Party movement in 2010 that had kind of an extreme control element on the floor. They're going through their herbal Tea Party on your side.
Herbal Tea Party.
Pretty good.
That's outstanding.
Herbal Tea Party.
Is causing a little bit of that fracture over there. And so there's going to be a need for these numbers to come together, where a group of us will go over at times to give that grease that allows the system to work. So it's about getting more members, but the right members is critical.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's go to microphone 9, please.
Thanks, Greg. Gentlemen, refreshing. A question for you. There's a coalition in the House. I believe Representative Kilmer from Washington is involved in a housing coalition. We represent the housing people here, and affordable housing are our marching orders. Are you aware of them? I believe they are a bipartisan coalition as well.
I have to beep the bipartisan. What, the New Dems one?
No, it's Derek Kilmer's group. Yeah, Derek's been working on that issue, and we're aware of that group. They're not as formalized, is my understanding, as we are. Each caucus is a little bit different. There's many caucuses in the House of Representatives, and we are one of the more formal. We have a staffer that helps us, and so his is a little bit different than what we're talking about.
But I'll certainly, that sounds like something that we should all be looking at as being part of. I'm happy to, I'll call Derek about it and learn more.
And Derek's one of our...
Derek's in our caucus, so.
The more that we see this, we need this because we have issues that we need to bring before your body that are going to help us build affordable, attainable housing. And the final question is,
yes,
should we be concerned about the fringe elements, either left or right, or are you going to be able to get legislation done, even though they seem to be garnering all the media support? And why doesn't the media cover the great work you're doing? Thank you.
That's a phenomenal question.
The concern about the extremes, absolutely you should be concerned. I'm very concerned.
Me too.
Because that voice on the hard right and the hard left that this extreme is represented about is very loud, and inside DC carries a tremendous amount of weight. And it has frozen the leadership, the adults in the room, from being able to do a deal because they're so afraid that they're going to be taken out on a primary, or they're going to lose their leadership position, or they're going to lose their future position going forward. And so this is our natural, I think, again, the silent majority of Americans are with us. I sense it. And we're just harnessing that voice to stand up to that very loud voice and say the silent majority needs a voice too, and we're hopefully those voices.
Yeah, and just adding to that, I totally agree with Tom. Just adding to that, so interestingly, the way the Democrats won the House in this past election was through the middle, right? Because we had all the seats that were in heavily Democratic seats already. We won by winning seats that President Trump won, right? I mean, my seat, which I just got reelected to, is a district that President Trump won. It's a Republican district, right? I'm a fiscal conservative, socially progressive, moderate, right? So there are 30 others who are like me that just got elected on the Democratic side. But if you turn on the TV, they kind of didn't get the memo, right? It's more fun to cover the people who are screaming from the edges. You listen, we're talking about how we can work together, right? Nobody goes to the Lincoln Memorial holding a sign that says, work together, get along, right? I mean, no one does that, right? They don't. But as Tom said, it's where the silent majority of America is, but it's just not as sexy as screaming and having a fight. People like to cover, what do people like to watch on TV? They like to watch the fight. And we're not about the fight, we're about getting things done. So the problem is, it's harder to break through and get coverage. We get a decent amount of coverage, but actually for what we're doing, but actually the extremes get the coverage. And they didn't win the House, right? And their views, I don't believe, are where the majority of the country is on either side, right? The country is more in the middle, either middle left, middle right, but somewhere in independence in the middle. And that's what we're going to keep working on.
But I think the media, if I could offer, I'm sensing a change a little bit. They're inviting Josh and I on quite a bit. Yeah. So we go on Fox, we'll go on Fox Business, we'll go on MSNBC, we'll go on CNN together. So they're tapping into this because I think they're seeing in their numbers, they're seeing in their ratings that people want to respond to this. So I think there's something there. But it is
They
interesting.
love me on Fox.
Yeah, and they love me on MSNBC. I'll tell you. So we have a classic. We were on it together, and just a side story, just inside. Fun. It was fun, and how friendship has developed here. You know, we're on MSNBC, and the host is just, "Oh, Josh, why are you such a great congressman? Why do you like puppies? What's your favorite color?" And then she turns to me and she's like, "And Congressman Reid."
Is it true that you're Darth Vader?
When did you stop beating your wife? And it's like, oh my God.
Every day.
But it was all part of it's part of what they do, and it's part of what they do. But we show up, because that's one thing that I appreciate about Josh, and what hopefully he appreciates about me, is we'll go into uncomfortable zones and send the message that, you know what, don't believe all of the headlines. Don't give up on the institution. Don't disengage from the process, because that's when democracy dies. That is when democracy, when people stop participating, they become cynical of the government. And I will tell you, then we start losing members who want to go to D.C., run for office, and be good members to be there.
And you're there to
make sure
right?
that you
And Tom,
participate.
as Tom and I talked about early on, you're there to represent your district, your representative, which means that you should meet with anybody if it's good for your district and you can help people. To me, that's my view. And I remember one of the early months after I was elected and we started co-chairing the caucus, Tom said, President wants to meet with us. And if you've noticed on my side, he's less popular. So we've got some people who are not thrilled with him if you go talk to him. But it's a branch of the government. If you want to get something done, he's got to sign it into law. That's just the way our process works, right? So we go to the White House, and I said I'm going to the White House. My staff were talking to him. They said, okay, if you're going to go, that's fine, of course. Just do me a favor, don't sit next to him. Because, it's just going to cause, I said, I got it. I'll sit over there. We'll be fine.
And so what seat did I give you?
So I walk in, and it's, President in the cabinet room, President, 2 nameplates, Tom, Josh, next to him. Right. That was good. On national television was great. That was by the way, very helpful.
That's,
But he's in a Republican district, so that helped you at the end of the day. No, anyway.
this is fabulous, fabulous.
Last question. Oh, no,
Fellow members know, I think we have to wrap up, I'm being told. Thank you for the other questions. Submit them, we'll make sure that these guys can answer them in the future for you. The representatives will follow up, but we ran out of time. Thank you at the mics.
Thank you, thanks Dean, thanks everyone,
thank you to all you guys here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys.
You
Great
guys
job.
have been a huge
Thank you.
hit, a
Thank
huge
you,
hit.
guys.